Okay.
All right. Good morning, guys. Welcome to the $7 to $100 million podcast. I'm your host, Tim Warren. I'm joined by Paul DeMott and Daniel Sfire, our CTO and marketing manager, helping to scale and build this thing. So, good morning, guys.
Good morning.
Morning. Am I crazy or are we like not in the stream at the moment?
No, we're in.
It says live.
Yeah.
No, I only see us at the bottom, and like the helium thing is like completely empty.
No, that's not what I see.
That's not what I see either.
Oh, weird.
What you got going on over there, Paul?
Yeah. Paul,
Yeah, I see like little tiny like boxes with both of you in them, and you're not like up on the screen, so I don't know what's going on there.
Yeah, it's weird. Your camera's also a little bit down. Like, if you put it up more, you'll be able to see your. So, Paul, I liked the video that you sent me talking about the Hormozi's boom, right? This idea of like a business order of magnitude change. So, I want to talk about this morning and discuss this idea of how fast can we grow, right? And the thing that Hormozi was talking about in his video, basically, for those of you guys who haven't seen it, is he was talking about one of the mistakes that small businesses make often is they will try to optimize everything as like much as they can because they just don't want to spend super aggressively on marketing, or they don't have a huge amount of money to be spending. So then they just try to optimize everything, right? They're like, let's optimize like every single ad, we'll optimize every single spend, and like so then they're only spending $3,000 a month on ads or $5,000 on ads or whatever. So they're spending a small amount of money, and then they're like trying to like super optimize it. And he was like, that just usually you're going to still end up getting constrained because so few people know who you are, right? And he said instead, advertise like there's no tomorrow. Way more people know who you are, and which his point is fair. And Paul, this is kind of what I was talking about, like was the direction I was leading a few days ago as I was thinking through this. It's like, think about today. Like, remember I used to tell the sales team that according to my math, there's probably about 40,000 businesses a month that are switching SEO firms, like 40,000.
Yep.
And last month we signed up 11 new clients. So that means that there's 11 people signing up. There's like 39,900 and some that are not buying from us. They're switching SEO firms and they're not buying from Helium because they don't know about us. They haven't heard about us. We're not in the picture. They don't want to buy from us, whatever the reason. But I would I would argue that probably 99% of the times because they've no idea who we are. Never heard of Helium, right?
Yeah.
And so many of the clients that we get in their first call, it's like, hey, have you heard of Helium? Like, nope, never heard of you guys. Like, dang, have you never heard of us? So this idea of how do we grow faster, I think if we just thought about what if in a single month we could afford to advertise enough where everybody who was switching SEO firms had just heard of us, right? Maybe they didn't like us. Maybe they wanted a roofing specific and we weren't roofing specific, or they wanted this other one and we weren't that. But still, right? Like if there's 40,000 and they just heard of us, right? And then that's going to spur probably 10,000 conversations, right? Of 10,000 conversations, we're probably going to close 1,000 clients. We would probably instantly be $100 million company, right?
Yeah.
Just from 1 month because our net was wide enough, right? We had so much traffic because we advertised so widely. And I think instead what we do is we're like, I'm willing to spend 10 grand or 15 or whatever the number is to risk, right? But then that's such a small portion still of the 40,000 people who are actually switching that maybe like 5 or 10 of those people saw it. And we got those people in, or maybe 30 saw it. And when we got in and we sold 5 of them or whatever the number is. But it's like a tiny, tiny fraction of the actual amount of people who could and would buy from us if they knew we existed and knew our value prop. So that's I think where I'm at is it's like, how do we get there faster? And to get there faster, we have to take bigger risks and we have to be more all in and we have to be like more aggressively going after the things that matter.
I think, and I think to me, the big operational, the way we operationalize it is like the moment that we are seeing success on any ad platform, like we should always be asking the question, should we like, let's keep pushing it. Let's push it till it breaks. I think so many people, they like go into their financial planning and they say, $10,000 a month on ads. And then they just commit to that. And then a quarter passes a year passes and they've just been spending that, and it's sort of arbitrarily picked. But like, I think to grow, you need to just like it. You shouldn't think of ads as a static fixed budget. It should be, is it working? Spend more. Is it not working? Fits the problem. Spend, like, it's push
Right.
fits the problem. Um, and I think you need, like, the one challenge with that is I think a lot of companies need enough resources and focus to be able to do that, because pushing is going to break stuff. Then you have to be focused on fixing that stuff. If you just have a company and all they're doing is managing spending money and they're not looking to push to scale you and keep growing you, you just won't grow. Like, you might make that platform might get more and more efficient, but you won't grow to the like crazy numbers with that.
Right.
What I did want to say though is, so like yesterday was kind of our first day of getting more aggressive, and we ended the day with 26 leads,
Nice.
13 meetings scheduled, which almost doubled our record in a single day.
Wow.
So our record for leads was 20. Our record for meetings was 8. So huge number there. And then the number of good, like basically not like great leads, but like not bad leads, was also a record with 7 in a single day. So what we saw is we spent more, we got more meetings in more meetings booked in like basically a single day than sometimes would be like 3 days worth of meetings. And yes, we got a lot of junk leads, but we also had a higher percentage of good leads. Something too, that I think as well is like the way that these machine learning bidding algorithms work. They kind of get better the more you train them. So it's like the more signals you pass and the more feedback you give them, the better they actually get. And so
Right.
I think like this is something we've talked about with our clients a fair bit, but like, you know, we talk about like kind of the Matthew principle that the rich get richer. And really it's kind of you kind of get a more unfair advantage the more you spend, because these are statistical models, and more data points and more supervised learning helps them like get better faster. So, you know, I think I was like hesitant to like push forward too fast, because it's like, well, maybe we need to get the ads right. Maybe we need to have the better infrastructure. And I do think we needed to set up a lot of that, but now we have it. But we may just see the quality of leads improve just by merely spending more, which is kind of counterintuitive. But that's what I'm kind of seeing after yesterday.
Right. Yeah, and it's almost, it's like there's this thing I wonder about in business, which seems to happen, which is you have to earn it, you have to deserve it to get it. And it's almost like the thing that you're afraid to do, when you finally do it, unlocks the growth that you want to have. So it's like you have to slay the demon or whatever, slay the dragon or whatever. You have to beat that boss or whatever Hormozy said.
Yeah.
So it's like you have to earn it. So I don't know what that is. I don't know why that exists as a thing, but it's exactly that, where it's like, wait, I started spending more and then the lead quality got better. What happened? It's like,
Yeah.
you took more risk. You risked harder and you leaned in and it worked better. And it's like, why? I'm like, don't exactly know, but that is definitely a thing. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
So
let's talk about our exact plan here, because where my head is at is, what if we worked backwards, not from what could we spend or how much should we risk, but what if we worked backwards from how quickly could we get to 100 million in sales, right? Because that's the goal. How quickly could we get there through advertising, right? And just staying super focused here. Could we just work backwards from the goal and say, how many leads would we need, right? I ran the math, and to kind of put this in simple numbers, I was talking to my wife yesterday and we were going through the numbers of this. Last month we closed 56,000 in new MRR. It's not all going to bill that month. Some will bills this month, but we closed 56,000. If we were to close 300,000 a month in new MRR at our current churn rate, without improving churn, actually like a higher churn, so like 0.35% churn versus 0.026, we basically grow by 21 million a year. And after 3 years, we're 100 million. And so because of the Hormozy, like you take the input divided by the output, right? Input divided by outgoing, and then that's how you get the theoretical maximum. So and I was like 300,000 a month, like that's not 100 times, it's only 6 times what we did, right? And in 3 years we're 100 million. So it's like, oh snap. So it's like, well, what if, so for example, if we spent, let's say $25,000 in ads, right? Well, it's like, well, what if we just spent double that? Well, that's 50. Well, then what if we 3x that? Well, that's 150. So that's 6x. So what if we spent 150,000 on ads, but we were selling 300,000 a month in MRR, and then we grow to 100 million? It's like, well, that seems worth it, right? That seems super worth it, right? So I think for me, it's, we just need to keep doubling down, because I think those are the bets. When I listened to Hormozi's story of how, like, he went from 400,000 a month in sales to $1 million a week in sales in like 2 years. How he did it was he would go to a conference and he would meet people and he would talk to people whose businesses are way further ahead, and he would ask them, he's like, you know, what are you guys doing? How are you doing this? Whatever. And the guy's like, he's like, oh no, I'm building my campaigns like this. And Hormozi's like, that's pretty much what I have. He's like, what's your daily spend? Hormozi's like, oh, whatever, you know, 3,000 a day or whatever it was, right? And the guy's like, oh, I'm spending 20 a day. And then he's like, oh. And then he went home and he just tripled his budget, like overnight. He just like, I'm going to send it. And then he grew way faster. He's like, then we went to, you know, then we went to $1 million a month. And then we had some constraint and we fixed that constraint. Then we went to 2 million a month. And it was, he just kept taking bigger bets down the direction he was seeing success. He just kept leaning in harder. And then he was not afraid of 2 things. There's 2 things that he was not afraid, that he would just choose to do. Number one, the what if, like, well, what if something breaks? Something will break, and that's okay, right? Like, that's the whole point. We're going to stress the system, but then you go fix that new constraint, right? Mm-hmm. So yeah, there's going to be like, you know, well, we'll have too many leads, or this thing will go up, or then we won't work the leads properly, or what if yeah, that's going to happen. So we just expect it. We're like, yeah, if we pour like 1 million gallons through that pipe, the pipe probably will break. But then we'll learn, like, oh, okay, let's dig it up and put a bigger pipe in there that's made of metal that can take 10 times the size. And okay, but fine. But we figure out the problem, right? And then we start running, you know, water through the pipe again. Mm-hmm. And then the other thing that he didn't seem to be afraid of is, what happens if I lose the money, right? Like he came from a position, I think, of he'd already gone broke twice, and he was like, I want to be successful. I want to make it. So like, he's not going to worry about what if I lose the money, right? Like, it was basically this idea of like, you're going to lose money in business sometimes. Mm-hmm. You have to be like, this idea of not trying to super over optimize. It's okay if you spend money and it doesn't work. Like, that doesn't mean that you lost, you learned, right?
Yeah, I think the key is that you learned, because I do think you can waste money, but
sure.
The key is that what I always hear from these like guys that spend insane amounts is that every dollar you spend, whether it works or doesn't work, you need to have insight from it. So like, what was it that didn't work? What was it that you tried? And I think that you actually have to be pretty smart. You have to be strategic too when you spend, that you could gain insight from it. Like, there are versions of just gambling on ads, basically, where you just put like, you're like, oh, let's turn this up to $1 million, and then it just has no chance of working, and you also have no idea what actually happened. Why did it fail? So I think that one of the keys that I'll be really focused on is like, as we push, how do we make sure that each push is teaching us something that we can then use to make it better next time?
Yeah, agreed.
I think one of the advantages we have is that the 3 of us work so closely together that there is such a small feedback loop that we're constantly able to make these easy changes, compared to someone who's maybe, you know, this person is running the ads, but then this person is doing something else, and they're having to all go through different sources in order, and they can't meet every day like we can. And I think that gives us a huge advantage for us to be able to make these very quick changes and adjustments, and not essentially spend money and not win, kind of thing, or spend money and not learn fast. So I think that is really
it's definitely an advantage to having a smaller team.
Yeah,
I think a lot of companies it's almost like they have like 4 different vendors that someone has to be the glue to connect them all, and they're all kind of cannibalizing each other. Like Facebook is taking credit for Google and whatnot.
Yeah.
So there's benefit to. I mean, obviously we'll have to expand this team as we go, but there's benefits to that.
Yeah,
One other exciting piece of news is since we've been on this podcast, we've had 2 good leads come through, like big budgets. One was a plastic surgeon, one was like a farm. So
they're watching the podcast,
picking
right?
up. They could be. I mean, there's someone in here. So,
dude, that's where they came from. They're watching the pod and they're like, I got to work.
That'd be cool. I did say that the attribution said an ad, but maybe they also saw the podcast. So.
Yeah, I'm running ads to the podcast right now.
Oh, hey.
So, Paul, let's kind of break this down. So, I love it's the theory and then the tactical, right? So this month we talked about raising budgets by 15,000, but then the conversation was like, well, what if we just had 250 grand and we just said let's put that in there, right? So how do we want to actually apply that? Do we want to just take like 250,000 and say, here we go, here's a ad budget, like let's spend this on ads and send it, right? Your idea was you're like, let's just keep raising budgets every 2 days and like literally just keep upping budgets and keep upping budgets and keep upping budgets.
Yeah, one thing is like any shift of 20% or more in the ads causes like massive disruption with these machine learning models. Like they will have to relearn. So you have to like send them back into relearning phase.
Yeah.
And so that's why I like the idea of like every other day, let's just like raise by a certain percentage. And like that sounds like it's not that aggressive, but if you do, let's say you raise like every other day by 10%, that's actually a substantial increase by the end of the month. That might be like 2 or 3 times the spend. And if you keep doing that by the end of the year, you could be spending like thousands of dollars a day. It's one of those things like if I give you a penny a day type thing that like, or if I double the number of pennies I give you. Let me see what that is. Let's see if I. So the algorithm can basically handle like up to like a 10% change per day. So that's a 317% increase by the end of the month. So it's like a 3x increase in spend.
What does Charlie recommend in terms of this?
That's his approach. This
is his approach. Okay.
Yeah. So every other day. Well, it's pretty common for most meta advertisers because of how like sensitive the learning phase is. Like every time you shift into learning, it's like, okay, well, we're going to start the exploration again. So you want to be increasing enough that it's like it kind of is using its same model, but just like it has a day to like make some small adjustments, another day to make some small adjustments and go.
Okay. Yeah, no, I'm not opposed to it. Like I'm not saying we need to do like massive instant swings and then like just it throws off the algorithm. I also like the idea of like if you ease into it slightly like that, like doubling every day or every other day, or adding more every day, then it allows the team to make sure that the team is ready. Versus like if all of a sudden if we have 2 setters and the leads like triple in a single day, and they're like the setters aren't getting to the leads, and like then we're wasting money, right?
Yep. Yeah, it lets us like make sure the system's working too, like good outcomes and stuff too.
Yeah, exactly. How do we plan to? So let's get 2 things just tactically here that I want to talk through about the plan of attack. Number 1, how do we plan to track the ROI of the spend? Do we want to just look at essentially at the end of the month, what did we spend? How much did we sell, and what's in pipe? This was our ROI, right? Do we want to do that? Or do you have a different method? How do we want to look at that? Because we need to still be tracking ROI. This doesn't, just because we're raising spend and being more aggressive doesn't mean that we don't look at the poker hands and look at how much we're winning or losing.
Yeah, do we win or do we not win? Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. I mean, I think at the most simple level, it's really just like closed deals and probability. Like I think we need to adjust our pipeline probabilities to be like to reflect what we would actually expect. So like we shouldn't go off of the vibes of the sales rep. It should be a system that is like, and I think we should build this into the dashboard, but it should be a system where it's like based off of historical data and like actions that they took. It doesn't need to be that complicated. It just needs to be better than it was. Like, for example, the deals that our team said were 50% actually closed at 29%. So we could just let them keep doing vibes and then be like, okay, you said 50, that means 29. Vibes is like, sounds kind of mean. That's not what I actually don't mean vibes. I mean like more so
No,
like,
yeah.
is this relationship good? I think it's going to close versus like, did this person commit to these actions?
Correct.
I think it's going to close. So I think
real quick, not to interrupt, but I want to throw this in there. There have been several times where I've gone to the sales rep and they're like, this one's going to close by the end of the month. Like, absolutely no problem. It's going to happen. I'm like, oh, cool. Tell me about it. And like, they tell about it, whatever. And then it's like, wait, where are we at in the process? Well, I'm selling to the like not full decision maker. And then there's a decision maker up here. Have we met with them yet? No, this deal's not done. Right. This deal's not done. And then we get in there and it's like, well, now the guy's ghosting me after we met with him. It's like, yeah, the deal wasn't done. Yeah. So that's a really key thing is sometimes the sales team they'll have a great meeting and the guy even verbals like, I'm going with you guys are awesome. But then that guy's not the decision maker. He has to now go and get approval from somebody else, or we get that other person in the room and that other person's like not sold for whatever reason. So there's times your point of vibes, the vibes, and I've even had this, right? I leave a meeting, I'm like, that person's going to buy, right? And then they ghost, you never hear from them again. You're like, was it me? What did I say, right? And it's just, that happens in sales. Like if everybody bought, sales wouldn't be sales, right? Sales would just be order taking. So you're 100% right. And the problem with vibes too is there's a recency bias. Like if I come off of 3 really good meetings today and you call me, you're like, Tim, how are the leads? I'm like, the leads are great. Right? If I have 3 no-shows today, I'm like, the leads are trash.
What's up with all these junk leads that are coming there?
Last week the leads were great. So it's vibes don't work. You have to use data.
So what I think we should do, so I think like if we just go off of closed revenue, it's always going to be there's like going to be a lag period. So like we might start cutting back on ad spend because we're not going to make up the money, but then like the next 2 weeks to the next month, we close all this revenue and it's like, okay, well, we shouldn't have backed off ads. So I think like exactly what you said is like, we need to have like a process of steps that if you cross those steps, that's what determines the percentage likelihood of closure. And we can probably work backwards from our current data. Like I was doing like correlation analysis yesterday on like the leads that come in that become proposals, and the most correlative like quick events that happened that I could feed back to Google were they used a business email and they actually gave us their budget. So I mean, not surprising. And then obviously the higher level of budget actually led to more bookings, but that could be biased because of our SDR team is probably more aggressive in getting those in the meetings. But so those are signals I'm sending back, and I'm also like redacting like spam leads and stuff like that. But I think we could look at the pipeline and just it doesn't need to be perfect, but just something a little bit better that's more accurate that lets us forecast the next month based off of it. And I think it's really a combination of take our closed one that month, multiply it by our percentage likelihood and deal value, combine that, evaluate that against spend, and then say, hey, was this worth it? Because also I'm okay spending more than we're making when we're selling reoccurring revenue.
Right.
But we want to, probably have it be a healthy number, not like a crazy number. Last thing we want to do is like have a couple bad months, eat into our spend a ton, and then feel like we don't know what to do. So it's just, measured approach there. That's how I think it's like a combination of that pipeline multiplied by probability of close plus closed one. And maybe we even make the pipeline thing a little bit conservative too.
Yeah, and we need to not have too many variables that we're changing. We need to be looking at the data, but the new, more profitable packages should also help, because just higher gross profit should mean that we can afford to run more ads because we get more gross profit more quickly. Also, there's this other thing too that, and I watched our video about this yesterday. the video, I think it was a podcast. It might have been Diary of a CEO. It was either Chris, I think it was Diary of a CEO. And they were talking about, so the guy who's on there, I don't know his name, but he's Steven or something. And he talked about when he started a business, like he was doing social media management or something or whatever for like small businesses, and they had like no money. So he charged like $10,000 total, and he was like, "This was people's full marketing budget for the whole year, and they're watching it like a hawk to see how many new followers they get and whatever." He's like, then when he got bigger, he did work for Coca-Cola, and he's like, Coca-Cola is just like, look, just don't mess things up, right? And they have 6-figure budgets, and it's just like he's like, they're much more sophisticated, but they're also way less exactly worried about the details, which we know with enterprise.
Yeah, take if you remember like Cosa Twin, do you remember they were just like, we spend $200 million on marketing and we make $600 million,
right?
And we don't really care about the efficiency that much. Like,
right? It was like, okay,
yeah.
I was like, all right, yeah. So Paul, this was the takeaway though. So Hormozi said something interesting with that piece. He said, if you want to sell to really good brands, if you're not really expensive, they're not going to take you seriously, right? Like the smaller brands are going to look and be like, how cheap can I get it? He's like, but that's not who you want as a client. So he actually said this. Hormozi said, he's like, if you came to me and said, I'll manage your social media, it's $2,000 a month. He's like, you can't handle me. That's what he said. He was like, you couldn't handle me. He's like, you couldn't handle me for $15,000 a month. He's like, you couldn't handle the amount of volume and the work we're doing in the team. Like, you just can't handle the amount of work. I know you can't, right? And he's like, interesting. So he's like, if a vendor came to me and it's less than $15,000 a month, like I'm just gonna know that they don't know what they're doing, right? And I was like, oh snap. And so for him, the only way to get his attention is to charge $40,000 a month and say, this is how we will handle your amount of volume and your thing, whatever, blah, 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 whatever, right? And I was like, oh, interesting. So we have to remember this. It's like not charging a lot for the sake of charging a lot. It's still, we have to get smarter with the ICP and who they are and getting the people in and like, right? So knowing the right bucketing strategy of like, are you selling to really small? Are you selling to mid? Are you selling to large? And so we have to get smarter about this. I think one where we will have an opportunity for optimization down the road as we go is pitching differently to different levels of companies because of their needs and what they have. And like, so this is something that I think we'll have to improve on. I'm working with the sales team on is I actually realized my original, the sales training manual that I made was like, run a DC this way every time, right? And then it's like, well, actually that's not what we've done for the last 2 really large sales. We ran a DC much more that was like really deep in the weeds, but it was, what is your goal? What are you trying to accomplish? How much revenue do you need to drive? What is that worth to you? How much would you spend to get to that amount of revenue? How much are you spending total? Do you have ROI numbers? Are you planning this stuff? No. Good. Okay. You'd spend this. Oh, great. You'd spend hundreds of thousands. Awesome. Cool. Now I know. Now let's talk about what you need. And then, right. And then when we're showing packages, it's like, look, you got to spend $25,000 a month. And they're like, oh, why? Well, you said you want this goal and you're coming to me as the expert and I've done this for a long time. And this is how much you need to spend for these reasons to have this budget to get here. They're like, oh, okay. Yeah, let's do that. Right. But if you don't do it that way, when you pitch the 25,000, they're like, dude, there's no way, right? Like, I'm not doing that. And they're not going to do that. Right. And then there's also the businesses who just physically will never be able to afford to do the 25,000 a month. And so we're just pitching it to the wrong person. But for pitching that to a bigger company or a personal injury attorney or whatever, to them, if we don't pitch 25,000, they don't take us seriously. So
yeah, I've heard of like I've known a fair number of like digital PR companies, and it's like digital PR, all they do is go out and like acquire backlinks essentially on big sites, and like the brands that they worked with, like if they're not charging $30,000-$40,000 a month, then like the brand is gonna think like this is gonna be junk, like links that I don't want. Yeah, so I think like we do a lot of backlink building and stuff, and so I think like a more sophisticated SEO client's going to be like, well, how many backlinks could you really get me that would be good at that number?
Exactly. So I think we have to remember on the pricing side, part of this is getting enough lead throughput to sell the really profitable bigger deals, and it's okay if our pricing is too expensive for some of the audience because we'll probably end up making more profit by selling fewer, more profitable packages. Or we go down market, right? And we sell the like DR booster package, which is actually more profitable than the original, $2,900 and $3,800 packages, because it's built to be more profitable, but it's also what they need as well too. So probably what I think will happen as we advertise more is we'll get more on the higher end, and we'll get more on the lower end, and probably less in the middle. Interestingly, that's my prediction, but I could be wrong. Like, I think we'll sell fewer of the 5 and the 12, and we'll sell, well, not necessarily, but like we'll maybe sell less of the 5, and we'll probably sell more of the 12 and 25 and more of the 2. Right?
That's
like,
kind of what I think. Yeah.
It
would be interesting to see. Yeah.
It'd be interesting to see. Like, and maybe I'm totally wrong, and it's like, nah, you're just wrong. And we sold.
It's funny to think about how many times have we lost deals because we actually came in too cheap, like, which is like such a painful like thing to like for it to be the reality.
Right.
You're like, man, if I could have actually won more deals by making more money from the deals.
Yeah, so it's just something to think about. I think when we think about price, I think we're like, look, the people don't buy the highest price. And it's like, that's not true. Depends on the buyer. If you got somebody who wants premium, they want the highest price, and they want you to push them to buy the most premium thing, right? Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I think probably for a sales optimization, Paul, one thing we should probably do. So I started doing this yesterday with the sales team. I talked about bucketing the 4 SEO packages into cars. Right. Mm-hmm. So like asking the person like, hey, if you were going to go buy a car tomorrow, are you the kind of person, do you buy the Kia? Like, hey, it's nice, but it's cheap. Right. I'm just looking for the nice, cheap thing. Are you buying the Toyota? Hey, I want great value. Doesn't have it's not a V8 and it doesn't have all the bells and whistles, but it's a great, super consistent car. Are you buying the BMW? Because look, I don't need a Ferrari, but I want it to be nice and right. Are you buying the BMW? Yeah. Or are you the guy who's like, I have to have the Ferrari. It's Ferrari or nothing. And then that's the 2,000, the 5,000, the 12,000, the 25, right? The Kia, the Toyota, the BMW, the Ferrari. And so to me, that is probably one thing we should start asking for people is not their budget, is, hey, when you go buy a car, Mr. Client, Mrs. Client, right? Mm-hmm. How would you buy a car? Who are you? Which buyer are you? If they're like, I'm the BMW, I'm like, well, then you need this 12. This is the Beamer, right?
No, I like that. Yeah, that kind of takes some abstract stuff and captures it in like a way that people understand.
And it's how they already make their buying decisions, right? So if you get somebody like I was talking to Luke, and Luke was like, he's like, well, you're not gonna like it, but I buy the Toyota. I'm like, dude, I've owned multiple Hondas. They're great cars. Hondas are phenomenal cars, but they're not a BMW. But that's okay if what you want is a Honda. If you want it to be relatively inexpensive and go forever, literally until the end of time, your Honda will probably go past the heat death of the universe, right? If you change its oil and timing belt, right? Like humans will be long dead and there'll still be Hondas like driving somehow, right? Mm-hmm. And it's like, if you want that, dude, buy the Honda. Like those are phenomenal cars, but it's not going to look and drive like a Beamer. And if you want the Beamer, then you got to pay for the Beamer. And if you're like, dude, that's just a Beamer, I need a Ferrari, then you buy the Ferrari. So it's putting the things out there and then almost letting people self-select, like, I buy the Toyota, dude, then this is the right package for you.
Well, do you think, okay, so this is a question. The analogy might work no matter how someone buys an actual car. But like, for example, I know people that would buy the Ferrari version of something like a gaming computer.
Yeah.
But then they would buy, but they don't care about cars. So they just want the reliable car. And so buyers potentially, they don't always do the same thing. For example, if we were hiring a SEO agency to work for us, I would want the Ferrari SEO agency.
Absolutely. We want the very best because we're picky and we know what we're doing.
Yeah. But there's a ton of stuff that I would rather, like, I'd just rather get the Toyota version of it. So the analogy might hold up regardless of how someone actually buys a car, because I think they get what we're asking them. We're asking like the equivalent of like the car thing, but for a marketing decision.
And it's I think it's how we ask it too, because we say, like, Paul, when you go to buy a car, what kind of person are you? How do you decide which car you buy? Right. Mm-hmm. So I know what you're looking for as a buyer, right? And you could say, like, when you buy the bottle of wine, when you buy the golf club, when you buy the car, when you buy the computer, right? Is it like, give me the cheapest piece of garbage? I don't care. I'm going to break it. Just give me the cheap thing, right? Okay, cool. We got that, right? Or is it I want the middle value, or it's like, I go and I buy the most expensive thing because I want the best every time. Cool. All right. Right. Or the person who's like, well, I don't need the very best one. I buy the top of the old
Or you
model.
got the
You're a beaver
pragmatist
guy.
who's like, yeah, like how do I get the most value for the at the most
Right.
efficient cost, basically. Yeah.
So I think, and obviously it doesn't perfectly work. If the person says, I don't care about cars, then we can say, okay, what are you into? And they're like, fishing poles.
Fruit.
Yeah, fruit. Okay.
Like,
You buy
I always buy the
organic
best strawberry
from,
that I could
the
possibly
organic
find.
from Argentina, shipped in live today.
There's a lab in California, like a university at California that studies strawberries, and they've been trying to make a better strawberry. Like, this is a legit thing. So
Okay.
that's all they
Oh, I was
buy.
like, is this
Yeah.
this is
patent
real? Oh,
for
wow.
that, the patent for their strawberry thing was like ended up being like a multi-million-dollar lawsuit. So
Oh, it's nice.
so that's
Sweet.
a niche of people that are obsessed with fruit. So
Yeah. So you can make it appeal to other things, right? You know, but you can still ask the question either way. Cool. So all right. So in the budget. So Paul, let me ask you this: How do we operationalize this from a budgetary perspective? Okay. So if we're just going to keep upping budget every month, do you need to predict what the budget's going to be, get it to Josh, or do we need to say like, this month here's the budget, and we just keep upping that budget, and then we have it so we can put it in the planning budget so we know what we're planning to spend.
I think
would probably
let's
prefer
build
the
like
latter.
let's build a model where it's like this is what it looks like to go up by a certain increment every other day on these platforms.
Okay.
Then we can calculate the total spend that would be in a month. We give that to Josh, so then he just knows like what we're going to spend in the best case scenario where it makes sense to keep upping the budget.
Okay.
And then if we decide at any point like, hey, let's pause on upping the budget today because for whatever reason, like we've got this new problem that we need to shift our attention on, then the number is going to be lower than that number essentially.
Okay. Got it. All right. So I think what I'll send to Josh then, our controller, is basically, here's how we want to start going after ads. We want to stop being limited on the number of leads that we're getting in. We want to take bigger bets and want to keep leaning in here. So like, here's like, we have these dollars set aside. Let's use these dollars as basically a slush fund, which is interesting because that's actually what Hormozi did. So Hormozi said the reason he does a 30-day ads payback is specifically so you can use a credit card or you can use a line of credit. So any business could do it this way, right? Because they can go out and get a credit card or whatever. And so if you don't want to have cash, you can use cash, but you can always use a line of credit as well. You have those funds sitting there. You then spend them on ads. You get the deals in, you get the deals closed, you get people billing, and then you pay back the line of credit, right? And so that way you're basically using it as a slush fund. So
what's the advantage? Let's just say you had cash. Is there any advantage besides just like organization?
Oh, it's just what
the
is
first
the
month it makes sense for sure.
Yeah, I think it's basically just you want to always keep capital. You want to have enough cash where you have plenty of cash to run the business and some overflow, because businesses can only run out of cash one time, right? Like if your brain runs out of oxygen for 6 minutes, you die, right? And even if like you have plenty of oxygen all the rest of the time, if there's a short window where you run out of cash, the business dies. So the brain will die without oxygen. So you basically, the idea of a line of credit is you can keep your like, here's my operating fund over here, and that's safe and protected. And then I'm going to use this money to bet and risk and like whatever. And then if you need to, you can always stop and wait with that one, and you don't affect this cash pool, right? That's the benefit.
Yeah, you just pay down the debt on interest and stuff. Yeah. It also would allow you to be a little more aggressive. So like if you have to stop, you don't immediately have to pay back the debt. You could pay back some and with interest and stuff. So like,
well, it also lets you amortize too. So like, let's say like for our business, let's say that our actual payback is 90 days because we have to get people in, then they pay. We have to pay the salespeople. We aren't like a super high profit product like media or something where it's like almost all profit right away. And so it takes us 60 or 90 days to actually have enough profit to then pay back the ads. We could amortize that out using lines of credit where we know, like it's this idea of like when you buy the thing, when we sell the deal, I know I'm going to have the profit in 90 days, but I'm not going to have the profit today, right?
Yeah, I see that.
Like
Yeah.
banks will lend on stuff like that. If you have like historical and contracts, so if like, hey, if I have a 12-month contract, they'll lend. I think it's like up to 70% of the contract or something. If it's in writing, here's a contract, because they know you're going to collect the money. So it's essentially like accounts receivable. That's kind of the idea. So you're just using the line of credit as an additional capital source to lend against, and then we can keep running the operations of the business the same. So it's like, here's the operations, here's the distribution, here's the profit, where we don't mess with the stuff over there, and then this is our pool of money that we play with, and it just becomes a slush fund where it's like the only thing that's going here and in and out is ads. So it just allows you to really easily see how much we're actually spending, how much we're paying back, and then if it's like, oh, I spent $250,000 on ads, I paid back the $250 this month. Oh, sweet! I actually made enough profit to pay back my ad spend. Like,
it makes it really easy to track payback and
makes it super easy to track payback and stuff, right?
Yeah.
And then you can get a larger line of credit, so you can go back and be like, oh, okay, this is working really well. We're now spending $20,000 a day on ads. Can I get $1 million line of credit? And so you just do the same thing in bigger numbers, right? You just up the numbers. And I actually have talked to some bigger business owners who owned larger companies, agencies, and that's how they ran their business. They didn't keep cash in the business. They distributed out all the cash, and they ran the business, even payroll and everything, on lines of credit. And so they ran the business cash poor. And they did that for two reasons. One is they're like, if we ever get sued, there's not cash in the business, so it's not as big of a target. And then number two is they said it forces us to be very brutal every month with what we really do and don't need, because you're essentially borrowing the money every month. And so you don't borrow what you don't really need, right? So then they look at the expenses, and they just run the business more like brutally, because they have to that way, right?
How'd that work? Did that work fine for them?
Yeah, I mean, it's a large agency here in town. You would know the name, and they've done very well. The guy came from like New York. He was like a New York agency guy, and he knows what he's doing. Like he's a very savvy operator. They're in the creative space, but they're a very solid company. Like they know what they're doing. So for them, it was I was like, oh, that's different, right? But it does work. So the point, Paul, is that you don't have to do one or the other. But I think the idea of like using the line of credit for ads is a good one, because we have a separate way just to track it. And also we can just take more risk, because like when you buy a company, you're like, all right, I'm going to write a check for $1 million. Here we go. I'm buying this, whatever. And you're taking that risk. With ads, it's a monthly thing or a daily thing where we're choosing and we're looking at the whatever, but I want to have extra pools of money that doesn't affect our actual cash flow of the main business, where you have payroll and you have expenses and you have income and all that stuff.
Yeah, I like this a lot. Yeah, and like, yeah, we have the cash to pay off the line of credit entirely if we need to.
At any time, exactly.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, so just basically the idea of wealthy people, they don't own more stuff, they control more stuff, right? They actually want to own fewer things.
Yeah.
Physically.
Yeah, I mean, leveraging debt is like how companies grow substantially.
Right.
Like if you've got a good poker hand, that if you have a royal straight flush, the best thing to do would not be put all of your money in. It would be to put all of your money in, all the bank's money in, and get as big of a win there as possible.
Exactly. Yeah. You put everything on the table because you know you're going to win.
Yep.
All right. So this has been a great episode. I think in terms of next steps, we've got some good items. Danielle, what is your takeaway from today?
Well, Paul, I'd like to work closer with you on developing like essentially a scorecard for the ROI that we're trying to track. I think that would be helpful for me to learn more, especially when it comes to the meta ads, and how we're doing that, and the little nuances and little things you're doing every day to help keep tweaking and improving. So yeah, if you could kind of communicate more, I would like to work closer with you on that in order to tweak that.
Yeah, we can do that. Yeah, and I think one thing we should do too, like on a similar note, is I think we should come up with a new pipeline calculation that we think is more accurate, because I just think if we're just going off purely closed revenue, it's a misleading story, and it will dissuade us from investing aggressively. But like take for example that one lead that came through that marked under 500 that now is like a
Right.
potential $10,000, $15,000 deal.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, that would be good pipeline to be counting. So I think we should come up with that, and then like ultimately we could build that into the dashboard also is like a forecast of like what I started working on something like this, but I think we need to like think through like what are the actions like that determine what percentage the sales reps actually put. To your point, like have they talked
we
to
can
the
we can autofill that with HubSpot as well.
Potentially, yeah. I don't know. Like for example, like the sales rep would need to probably input information or tell us like I've spoken to the decision maker of
That's
this.
true.
I mean, we could build that into HubSpot, but like I don't feel confident in the sales rep's ability to to do more and more HubSpot fields.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Yeah, it'd be more
Yeah.
of a okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay.
It's
Not
really
saying
hard
they
to
don't.
remember to update everything. Oh,
Yeah,
man.
yeah.
You
Well,
get
yeah.
meetings, and then it's like,
These
oh,
people,
crap,
yeah,
I
our
update
team's
that.
good at hunting deals and like the excitement of all that, like
Right.
monotonous, boring update tasks. As much as I would love them to be good at it, we can keep it to a minimum. It's better.
I know. Yeah, there's just be, as we grow, there's probably like going to be sales admin, excuse me. There's like admins, their whole job is to just get stuff in there and updated. Maybe we can use Claude for that and just use more AI for that. Before we jump off here, last thing. So Danielle, I've been really trying to remember hard. Mine will not auto record. I don't know why Zoom does not auto record for me. I cannot get it to work.
Doing it again?
Won't do it. Will not do it. I've changed the setting. Like won't do it.
Okay.
Anyway, I'm recording them. I've been recording all my trainings. So I'm training with the sales reps like constantly now, literally every day. We're training with the sales team. I've been recording all those, and I've got whole plans. What I'd like to do now is start getting all those Zoom videos and getting those transcripts and getting them into Claude and literally having that turn into our sales workbook, the playbook, right? Because it's literally all the stuff I'm saying. It's all the stuff I'm coaching on. So if that's possible, if you could get start getting all of the stuff out of Zoom, putting it into Claude and basically creating this ongoing, like, here's the Helium sales playbook. We need to start building that out with like, here's the objection, here's the overcome. And it's like literally the script of exactly what I'm saying, right?
Yeah.
And from calls. So I think Claude would be good about that, like just being able to throw all that stuff in there. Because what I really want to have the sales manual be is if Tim just didn't show up to work tomorrow, right? I just was like, not coming in. We could give the playbook to a rep and say, do exactly from A to Z, exactly this, and they get the result that I get, right? Because it's literally the whole thing exactly modeled out, right? That's where we need to get to with the playbook. Because then when we hire the sales director, because the next hire I want to make, Paul, instead of hiring more sales reps, Hormozi says hire 1 to hire 10. That's what PE does. So PE doesn't hire the sales team. They hire a really, really baller sales director, right? And then that person hires the team because that sales director builds the team in their image. So you get somebody who you really like, somebody who's aggressive, who works hard, who's at it, who's like building the right culture. And that person comes in and then they build the team. And so the team is loyal to them, which is what we want. We don't want a team that I build who's loyal to me. And then there's a new director and they're like, I don't really know this guy or girl, whatever. So that's, we want to do it that way. So I think my plan is let's get this stuff, like let's sell tons of deals. Let's really dial it in so we know exactly how we're doing it the right way. That's the playbook. Then we hire a director. We give the director that playbook and say, this is the playbook, run this playbook, right? Then it will scale, right? Then it will actually scale properly.
Yeah, definitely. I can get that done.
Okay, cool. I've already started one, Danielle, which I think you should have access to, but like, Hormozi's is like this.
Build onto it. Yeah.
it's thick, right? Like,
yeah, Tim, like, we should just get you Fireflies to join your calls because I personally think Fireflies does a lot better job recording than Zoom does.
Whatever you want me to use, totally fine. Because that's the thing. I was sitting down to write it all out, and I was like, "What am I doing? I do so many meetings and calls. Why don't we just transcript this thing and throw the actual conversation? Plus, it's easier for me when I'm riffing with a sales rep and like what I say in the moment and how I overcome it. It'd be so much better just to put that into writing versus me like when I sit down, I'm trying to type it all out, right?
Yeah, you can build a project in Claude where you upload, like, let's say we had like 300 transcripts from your real calls, your trainings, etc. We just upload all of those in, and then you can ask questions against that whole list. So you could say, hey, from this, build like a whole objection manual.
Right. Yeah. That'd be
So-
cool. And then people can they can literally memorize it. Like when they say this is way too expensive, what do you say next? Like what's the action? Memorize it, right?
Yep.
All right, guys. Thanks for joining the $7 to $100 million podcast. We will see you guys on the next one. Have a great day.